when you build this kind of car, it's gonna have a raw feeling. It's not gonna have the creature comforts. It's not gonna have the most comfort, the quietest cabin. It's purpose built. So it's definitely raw. It performs as an extension of the driver. So any input that I give it, there's no lag at all, whether it be it boost, whether it be it steering. I mean, even the steering ratio is shortened on this car. Like everything's instantaneous with it. It's very rough. When you're driving it like on a normal road, you could feel the leaves on the ground as you're running them over. But when you're driving it hard in a corner, it feels, I mean, of course it's gripping, it's stiff, it's rigid, but the feeling is akin to the way somebody feels comfort in a Cadillac or a Benz or BMW or something that floats comfortably. It just feels like it's meant to do that. And it's doing it in the best way possible, because there's no fear, there's no feeling of, well, what if it doesn't handle this corner the right way? It's always going to be able to perform as best as it can. It just kind of grips, dives down, and just settles in a spot where you feel so connected with the road, you almost don't feel the imperfections of the road. It's like the car is the road. It's weird to say it like that, but it's one. You know, people say, you know, a car's riding on rails. It's kind of like that, but even on top of rails, you kind of feel the vehicle move. You know, it's going, the wheels are connected, but with this, the entire car is connected. Everything's in together as one. I'm Albluwi, and this is my 1991 Toyota MR2. So there wasn't necessarily one thing or one reason that I chose to build the MR2 platform, but back in my high school days, I was building a 1997 Mazda Miata, and that was the car that I thought I was gonna build, that I was gonna keep forever, and it actually ended up getting T-boned, so I had to look for another platform. And actually, while I still had the Mazda, my best friend Daniel Rivera, he bought a 1991 MR2. He asked me to go look at it with him. I had never seen one ever before, but the moment I saw it, I knew that it was a special car. And then I test drove it, looked at it with him, and it kind of felt like just the raw car that you were a part of. Almost kind of like when you're sitting on a sport bike and you feel like you're molded into it. That's how the car was set up. And I didn't know if it was that specific car or that's just how MR2s were at the time, but it definitely felt different than anything else I was driving at the time. After I left the Mazda Miata platform because of the T-bone incident, I actually ended up in a Porsche 944. And while I had it, it was probably one of the best handling cars ever for stock form that I'd driven at that time. And my buddy Daniel still had his 1991 MR2. And we would sometimes go out to Rivergate or car meets or auto zones for everybody that's in Memphis watching. And we would swap cars all the time. We'd even swap cars back when I still had the Miata. And every time I drove it, I just kept telling him, I was like, man, I need one of these. This is an amazing car. And he made it his mission to go find one for me. And I don't know, I guess it was just by chance. He was driving through, I guess, a neighborhood that was kind of close to his. And there was this car sitting outside in somebody's driveway. Of course, it didn't look like this and it wasn't built this way. It was set up completely different. But it was what I wanted. It was an MR2. And I didn't know if it was for sale or not. It was just sitting in the guy's driveway. I was like, man, I don't want to go up there and just knock on some stranger's door. And my friend, he basically took me in his car and he essentially forced me to go look at this car with him. And I knocked on the door, the guy's wife came out, and I said, hey, is this car for sale? And she kind of had like an exclaimed look on her face. She was like, oh my God, yes, this car is for sale. I'll call my husband right now. And I kind of feel bad about that at times because I think he didn't really want to sell it. But the fact that I knocked on the door meant he had to. And when he came home and showed me the car, he told me that He wanted 5 grand for it. He didn't really want to sell it. He had a deal with his wife where if it didn't sell within a certain time period, that he could keep it. And I unfortunately knocked on his door right at the end of that time period. So that's how I ended up with this car. And pretty much from there on, I just kept building it. So I've had this car for a little bit over 10 years. I actually bought it when I was a high school senior. And this is 2016 at the time. And when I bought this car, it was everything I wanted, but I didn't realize how much needed to be done to it. It's a steel mist gray MR2 Toyota 187. And every single one of these that you see, the bumpers are mismatched colors. The mirrors are faded, just something about that paint code that didn't adhere as well onto the extra panels of the car that weren't on the main body. So, of course, it took me pretty much right up until a year ago to get the body, the paint, everything looking the way that I wanted it to look. But the problems weren't just with that, it was also with the engine. At the time when I bought it, it was a 3rd generation 3S GTE swap, and the guy had swapped it in his garage. So none of the bolts in the engine bay matched with another one. Wiring for the intercooler fans were made out of audio cable. The car was not very well built, and it was in pretty rough shape as well. It was an SCCA autocross car for 6 years before I got it, so it wasn't fully roadworthy. So I've had a few different iterations of my build where essentially I decided this is the route I'm gonna go. And the goal was still the same at the end of the day, but the paths that I took ended up changing multiple times. And I actually had a few breakdowns over the years where my car sat for a year on jack stands. At another point, it sat for 2 years on jack stands. And then at a certain point, you know, after saving money and knowing that I was going to build this car, I said enough is enough. I'm going to build it, and it's going to be precisely what I want. So as far as the build goes, obviously the most visible part of the car is the exterior, the kit, the paint. It was really important to me that I wouldn't just have a thrown together car. This was actually the last thing that I decided to do. I had to make sure the car was driving, felt exactly the way I wanted it, and everything was perfect. It was the machine that it needed to be before I actually worried about the way it looked, which is kind of funny to say because the way it looks is one of my most favorite things about it now. It's a steel mist gray. It's a gray Toyota 187 gray paint with a blue pearl flake. So it's almost kind of like a color shift pattern. It's gray in some lightings, dark gray in others, and almost bright blue in, you know, direct sun. But it was very important to me that everything that I had in this car was genuine, good quality parts. I didn't want to just throw it together and just have it rag-tagged and zip-tied together. It had to be sturdy, it had to be legitimate brands, and if I'm gonna buy a part from somebody, I want it to be from somebody who takes pride in what they're creating. So up front, we have the Greddy lip, the Greddy side skirts on the side of the car. I have Bomex mirrors. On the rear, I have a factory 91 Toyota lower section of the spoiler. I have on the upper portion, it's an auto pista spoiler. The bottom of the rear, I have Greddy rear spats. And the goal of this car was I wanted it to look like it had good aerodynamics, but I also wanted parts that flowed with the original body line. So everything needed to mesh together well, and the majority of it is Greddy, but I felt like the Bomex mirrors and the auto pista spoiler kind of flowed perfectly in there with the angular lines that the Greddy kit has. So the interior of the car was towards the tail end of my build. I have actually seats that I've been looking for a long time, some Recaro Confettis, and these actually have the leather bolstering on the outsides of them. I wanted a seat that would grab you, where you could kind of become one with the car, and as you turned, you were completely flat. That way you didn't rock side to side, held in, you had full control of what you were doing, and something that was also reasonably comfortable. And of course, the style aspect of it, the confettis, I don't think there's anybody out there that could deny how good they look. I also have a Vertex steering wheel. It's a Never Content collab, it's a numbered wheel, and it's actually partnered with my Workspell flip-up GTC hub. It's also a Never Content collab, which is also numbered. So those two portions of the car where you're directly connected to it, I wanted something nice, quality, and something unique. These cars also have a tendency to kind of have clunky shifts, especially before warming up. So I also threw in a TRD short shifter as well to try to get a more engaging and smooth feel in the shift. And paired with that, to kind of make my shifts more crisp, I have a Fidanza flywheel, a South Bend clutch, of course LSD. I have TCS Motorsports axles. Previously, this car had the 3rd generation 3S GTE. I was running a whole lot of boost on it. It was a great motor, made a lot more power than what I have now, but I was looking for something that was more linear, the way it delivered the power, something more predictable, something that had a very wide rev range that was usable, because I was transitioning from wanting to do stuff like roll race or make more power, just have a really fast turbo car, into wanting to hit the Touge with my friends, have a car that could hit the track, something that could slow down into a turn and power out of it into a straight, something that didn't lag at all. And with that, the 5th gen 3S GT also has a smaller turbo, CT15, rather than the CT20. It's a full bolt-on TCS Motorsports swap. When I say full bolt-on, the 3-inch intake, the Burke downpipe, the Burke exhaust, the TCS Motorsports intercooler piping, the side mount intercooler, the side mount intercooler fan. Side mount, of course, on these cars, way better, since you can get all that air from the side vent directly into the intercooler, which is also why I went with the Greddy side skirt as well, because it had that wide mouth open venting compared to the factory kind of split vent look. It also has a minor wire tuck. I wanted to make sure that with this motor, as far as working on it, diagnosing it, keeping it going, being able to maintain everything, I wanted to make sure that everything was easily accessible, everything was kept up to date. My entire goal with it was reliability, wide power range, and something that I could access, something that I could sit here, work on. I had room, I had the space to do it. It wasn't about building power this time like it was with the 3rd generation 3S GT. This one was about seat time, being able to drive the car hard, and being able to push it through corner after corner and know that it was gonna be reliable, that it was gonna keep up, and it had the power to also be competitive in that aspect. course, with a motor behind you, heat can sometimes be an issue. So I actually put in some fans into the turbo engine lid with a panel that I got from TCS. And the way I have them set up is they're actually blowing out. So I have it set up to where air is actually going into the side vents of the car, and then it's coming out of the top of the engine lid. And people debate about it, they do testing. Based off the temps and the way my car is performing, it works well for me. I think I could potentially switch it up if I ever get one of those roof-mounted scoops that some MR2s have, and then potentially have the air blowing in. And in that aspect, I probably move from the 3-inch intake back into a ARC box filter that I used to have. But this car is pretty much geared entirely for Touge, road racing, back roads, track oriented. It's all about grip, it's about handling. So I wanted to make the car super rigid. I have the TCS X brace in the rear. I have a TRD strut bar in the front. I have chassis bracing pretty much everywhere, behind the fender, underneath the car where the sway bars mount. Of course, I have sway bars front and rear on the car. The tunnel underneath the car is tied in side to side with more chassis bracing. I just wanted to make sure that it was super rigid, it was completely flat. I wanted any weight transfer to happen to be intentional with this car. I wanted a car that didn't fall to the rumors of snap oversteer that everybody kind of attributes to these cars, which this car is extremely planted now because of that. So I was able to adjust roll center, the toe, the bump steer, all through a geometry kit from Wilhelm Raceworks. I also have the Wilhelm Raceworks aluminum machine knuckles. Of course, I get weight savings. I'm losing about 25 pounds from that, but they're way more rigid. I'm able to run Camry hubs in the front, which are 1.5 times stronger than the factory MR2 hubs. And in the rear, I'm able to run RAV4 hubs, which are also a whole bunch stronger than what you would normally get in this car. And with that, of course, one of my side goals with the car was, can I maintain it? If I'm gonna go hit a back road, if I'm gonna go hit the Touge, if I'm gonna go run this car hard, can I sit there on the side of the road or at a track and can I fix what's broken? And with this, I'm able to go to bolt-on hubs, and now I no longer have to deal with pressing bearings or anything like that. So everything's super quick. You can probably change a hub in 15-20 minutes. It's very quick and easy now. I have BC coilovers with Swift 500 springs. It's a lot stiffer than what most guys run, but for me it's very comfortable because the car is completely flat. It doesn't turn it turns aggressive, but it doesn't shift weight aggressively. If I'm shifting weight, again, it's intentional. It's very easy to kind of drive the car. I think that, of course, snap oversteer, it deals with toe, camber, curve, all that, and all of that is fixed with the Wilhelm's geometry kit and the knuckles. But it's not really a detriment to this car. It's just something that a driver has to learn and work with. That being said, I still believe that making a car easier to drive and more predictable can make a good driver into a better driver. So sort of back into how this car isn't a power-oriented build. It still makes decent power, about 330 wheel. So it's respectable, it does what it needs to do on track, it does what it needs to do on the Touge back roads, it performs really well. But I think what makes somebody a faster driver with the type of driving that I want to do and that I do enjoy doing is definitely braking. Brakes on these cars were pretty good for the time. I was running 93 turbo brakes. I eventually went into a TCS Motorsports big brake kit on the front. And that TCS Motorsports big brake kit, it was, I want to say 1.38 inch pistons, 4-piston Wilwood brakes. I was running Supra rotors, and it performed pretty well, but I was having a problem with brake bias. It was way too aggressive in the front. The turbo valve on these cars didn't have much adjustability, so I had an option of either going to an adjustable Wilwood valve or maybe going to a non-turbo MR2 factory valve. Those bias the rear a little bit more, so it kind of evens it out. But what I eventually did was go with a Wilhelm Raceworks big brake kit. And that big brake kit, of course, came with the 4-piston Wilwoods, but normally people don't run 1.38 inch pistons on the front. Again, because they run into the aggressive problems that I had. You know, I was having to kind of throw the car into turns, understeer a little bit, and then weight transfer out. But I wanted to be able to left foot brake and kind of power out of the turn. I wanted it to be 50-50. I want it to be distributed 50-50, have a 50-50 brake ratio. How I achieved that was, along with Alex Wilhelm, I was able to graph the factory turbo valve with 1.62 inch pistons in the front, 1.38 inch pistons in the rear, and I was able to achieve nearly perfect a 50-50 weight, wanted to say weight distribution, a 50-50 brake ratio, front to rear. So the brakes, I don't really ever run into brake fade. I think some of that's attributed to the 2-piece Wilwood rotors, but also the size difference. I mean, the non-turbo cars came with 14-inch wheels. This car has 14-inch rotors on it, so there's a lot of surface mass or surface area there for the heat to dissipate. And the braking alone has shaved down just how quick I can drive. Like, I'm able to shave down so much time and drive the same routes, same courses, same back roads at a way more like constant rate of speed than what I was before. I was constantly having to downshift, upshift, and power out of turns and drive a lot more aggressive. Now I can drive a lot more predictable and a lot more constant. It's easier on the car, and the car is a lot more confidence inspiring with that braking capability. So everything I've done with the car has all had a purpose in some way, shape, or form, but there are some parts that kind of resonate with me on a different level. For example, some of these parts, I mean, these cars are really hard to get parts for. You sometimes have to hunt years for them, which I ended up doing. So these Bomex mirrors, I've wanted a set of those since I've got this car. And it's taken me, what, 8-9 years for me to get them. So those mirrors, I mean, it sounds weird, but they are kind of special to me in that sense, because it's something that I've always wanted, and I actually got to see it come into fruition. Because it's not guaranteed. It's not like I can, you know, get online and say, yeah, I can just order this part whenever. So they either come up or they don't. Kind of same thing with the Recaro Confettis. They're not as rare, but they are harder to find, especially because I wanted the leather bolstering, the leather sides, to kind of mesh better in with the interior. Of course, the numbered parts I have on the interior being the wheel and the hub, those are really cool. A lot of other people won't have those. So it's something that I feel like, yeah, this is for this car. Even if I got another car, which I wouldn't ever get rid of this car, but if I, for whatever reason, had to remove that wheel, it wouldn't go into another car. It's for this vehicle. But some of the parts I have, they're more innovative, or they're ideas that just kind of came about. For example, these cars, especially, well, definitely the T-top version, they have the antenna in the rear side wing piece. So my really good friend Braden, he owns Severe Stance Shop. He just randomly hit me one day and was like, "Man, I know you're building your car," and he was doing a lot of my fiberglass work and making sure that this car would come out pristine. He wanted it to be perfect, which for me, only kind of people I want to work with are people that take pride in what they do. He came up to me and he said, "Hey man, have you ever thought about deleting that antenna hole? Do you even use your antenna?" Which I don't. So the minute he said that, I was like, "Dude, yeah, let's do it." He deleted it, and people don't really notice it, but when they do, they're like, "Dude, hold up. What did you do with that antenna hole? That thing is ugly. How'd you get rid of it?" And I ended up telling them, "Man, it's just fiberglass through. It's just one good idea that can kind of change the appearance of an entire car."